Welcome, everybody. To everybody who's just joining us. My name is Nico here from Zeplin and Omelette. I always like to throw in both of those. I'm here for the community and growth crew on the marketing crew. And today we have with us Stacy Pitman. Stacy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, Stacy Pitman. I am a current product designer for Zeppelin right now, and it's been really awesome and great. Working on some pretty cool, onboarding stuff. So that's exciting.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And as the title suggests, this show is called Design to Dev. So we are sitting down doing trendsetters with people and folks around the community who build and design beautiful products. So thank you so much for being here and for giving us a very cool look inside of Zeppelin too. So this is a lot of fun. So I'm super excited about it. Very happy to have you here. So we know who you are. We know what you do. What are you working on though? And what does your day-to-day sort of look like?
Yeah. So, currently working on the onboarding stuff. Really cool. I can't really delve too much into it just because, not that it's a secret, but it's in the early stages. But yeah, it's a cool project, and it um, kind of flows right into the day to day because the first half of my day was filled with meetings, which is generally how that works for my week. Catch me earlier in the week, and I'll be kind of split between meetings and designing. Catch me in the later half, say like Thursday, Friday. I'll have more time to think through ideas and do the actual designing, and a lot of free time there, and usually try to throw out some sort of prototype to really help tell the story.
Awesome. Very cool. Do you for prototypes and all of that too, do you do all of your design work primarily in Figma or are there other resources or other places that you go to?
Yeah, so it is actually pretty much solely in Figma. There, since the transition, almost everyone uses Figma now, so uh, rarely, I think, do I have to lean on any other design tool.
All right. All right. Yeah, I've just been noticing a lot of the design community has been discussing Canva recently. So just a quick random
Okay.
new question for you. What are your thoughts on Canva? What do you have to say about Canva to the world?
That's so interesting. I saw like an article recently that they acquired um, some other tool that I've never used, but it's for designing. And I think that's kind of cool for like a competitive purpose, but I can't say too much because I don't think I've used it that much.
Okay. All right. There you go. That's very interesting because as coming from the marketing side, I'm like, Canva has grown and shaped an entire generation of marketers into believing that we can design. So it's good to hear from an actual designer what people do think about that, which is great. So yeah, moving on into I wanted to learn a little bit more about you too. So what are the core beliefs or experiences that have sort of shaped you personally as a designer?
Yeah, so probably start out with experiences because I think my first experience as a UX designer specifically was what really shaped me moving forward. I had one of the what I would consider one of the best teams to work on as a newbie, and I learned so much, and the creative freedom that they allowed me to have was amazing, and that allowed me to create some really, really amazing things. Um, as far as inspiration, I feel like I don't know. Everyone usually has some special person, uh, but I don't know if I have um, a special person. More so of a quote that comes to mind that really kind of triggers my thoughts and things when going through designs. And it's the Henry Ford quote of if you would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So I try to just think of that every time that I'm doing a design because it then lets me think about the user and also then try to advocate for them for an even better experience.
I love that. I think that's so fun. That is a great quote, though. If people did know or think about what they wanted during that time, so a lot of it is sort of like looking to the future. What are some of the ways that you do put yourself in a user's shoes? Are you, first, do you like to, as the tech community says, do you like to dog through the apps? Do you like to put yourself in those shoes? Like, how do you get yourself in that perspective there?
Yeah, I generally like to be as much as I can in the shoes of the user. A great example that I have was at a job that I worked at. It was for relating to inspecting cars, and I literally just took my car out. and acted like I was an inspector and like inspected my car and did all the flows and came up with a really amazing and simple flow that increased efficiency by like 60%. It was really
Wow.
cool.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome that you're able to really advocate for your users, and I'm excited too because as you had hinted at earlier, you're working on some new things for Zeppelin too. So I imagine a lot of that plays into you actually now being a very prominent Zeppelin user and being able to figure out, oh, what do I need for these topics, which is awesome to hear. Yeah, and moving forward, so you sort of touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to sort of get more a little deeper, go one layer deeper in as Shrek would say. Who or what is your inspiration?
Yeah, I was hitting a little bit on that a moment ago, but yeah, I think if you would have caught me a few years ago, I probably would have said something like Steve Jobs or someone really cool. But I think the more that I do product design, as cheesy as it sounds, I really think that the users are the inspiration most of the time. I just again try to put myself in their shoes and understand the pain points and even go through all the mundane things that they would go through, just so I could try to solve their main problems, but also those mundane ones that maybe no one normally thinks about.
Awesome. I love that because that, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, that is one of Zeppelin's core tenets and beliefs is that we are user first at the end of the day. So that's fantastic to hear. And it sounds like, Palin picked a good one. So I'm very, very happy to have you on the crew and to have you leading charge on a lot of these things. Which is fantastic. Awesome. Well, that's great. Moving forward now, I'd like to maybe do a little, what I guess I could call like a little mid-series, mid-show break, where we get you to rate things. So we're going on to a new segment called Overrated or Underrated, where I'm going to provide you a variety of different things, and you can tell me with a one or two sentence explanation if they are overrated, if they are underrated, or you can also add if they're perfectly rated. Like they are, people think of them just the way that they should, and maybe a little bit about why. So we can get started if you're ready.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. The first three, I've got three fonts that I want you to tell us are overrated, underrated, or appropriately rated. And that is starting off with Inter.
Ooh, okay. I want to say that one's maybe underrated. If I remember correctly, that is a Google font, and they really put a lot of thought into their fonts for like visual purposes on screens. And I think that one was specifically designed for not only print but digital, and so there's a lot of good thought that went into that one.
Love it. Love it. Now a classic, Helvetica.
Uh, this is I don't know. Maybe I want to go with it's right at its spot. I think
All right.
it doesn't get heavily used, but it doesn't get overused. I think, and it's just a really nice font.
Awesome. That's great. Because that's funny that you say that. Because coming from a non-designer, I was always like, "Oh, Helvetica is the only font to use. Like that is the font. If you're going to use a font, it's Helvetica." So that's interesting. I'm happy to hear you say that. And the last one is Papyrus.
Okay. Gosh. That I'm gonna go overrated if that's even a like I don't do people use that? I don't know. At least you didn't say Comic Sans, so that's good.
There you go. Who knows if anybody else is using Papyrus aside of James Cameron in his many Avatar reboots, but we shall see. Now we can move on to some just general, design terms. Overrated or underrated for design systems?
Design systems. Ooh. Well, since they're really gaining traction, it's kind of hard to really judge that. But I would say underrated for right now, just because I think more people should use a design system. They're very helpful, and I'm a big fan of organizations, so that really helps, like, just organize everything about your designs and reusability.
Love that. Love it. What about naming your layers?
Ooh, a few years ago, I might have said overrated, but I'm gonna go underrated now. Working at Zeppelin has really been an eye-opening moment for naming layers and how important that can be, especially for handoff.
All right. Very interesting. I like the perspective there. That's awesome. Flat design.
Ooh, I'm gonna go. Maybe that's the middle line. Also, again, I personally like flat design as opposed to like skeuomorphism and things like that. So Some people might say overrated though, but I'm going in the middle.
There you go. To the follow up is skeuomorphism, underrated or overrated.
Right. I think I'm gonna slightly say overrated on that one. Used to be really big. I remember getting into things when I first was doing design work forever ago, and that was the thing. But it slowly, flat design won my heart.
There you go. All right, you're more of a iOS 7 fan than 6 and before.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. And the last one here is design critiques.
Ooh. Well, I mean, like probably underrated. I feel like there could always be more critiques, but as long as it's constructive, not just picking apart someone's design because you don't like it.
There you go. That's perfect. We also have a bonus one. A bonus one. The Eames
Bonus.
lounge chair. Overrated or underrated? Or the Herman Miller Aaron chair. Two very, very
Okay.
famous chairs. So, in your opinion, overrated or underrated?
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Herman Miller one because I'm sitting in one right now.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I'm going overrated on that one, and not because it's uncomfortable. It's actually amazing. I just standing is much more important than sitting, I've found. So
Okay.
chairs in general are overrated, I think.
You heard it here first, folks. Chairs are out in 2024. No more chairs. We're doing standing design now. Awesome.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for playing Overrated or Underrated. And now we can move on into a little bit more questions. At Zeppelin here, we're all about the workflow. So I want to know more about your workflow now, and specifically, how has that changed? So first question for you is, how is your relationship with your developers, and are there any areas that maybe could be improved?
Yeah, I would say currently, they're a good relationship. Nothing wrong with that. We definitely communicate really well, especially once work is like in Zeppelin. I think that really helps with some barriers on that point. But I feel like there's always room for improvement, right? And so I'd say developers in on design ideas sooner is always super helpful.
Mhm.
I actually try to live by the viewpoint of working with PMs and developers from just like the get-go, just because I feel like it creates the best experiences and you get the best feedback and the quickest possible feedback, and you miss all the pitfalls that working separately and kind of siloed gives you.
Definitely. I love that. If you could give any advice, to anybody who wants to improve their workflow or involve people in the beginning, what would your best advice be? To reach out, or is there anything else that you have sort of built into your workflow now that helps you?
Yeah, I feel like definitely reaching out would be a really good place to go because I think that's really the barrier there sometimes where it's like no one wants to reach out to the other. And really you just have great conversations. I personally have, and you talk through a lot of really cool things when that happens.
Awesome. I love that. Quick follow up, how do you organize your workspace now?
How do I organize my workspace? Yeah, so now at Zeppelin, um, having things organized, I definitely didn't do before. It was a struggle of mine. I just kind of worked in mass chaos. It was an
Sure.
infinite canvas, so it was easy to just throw things on the file and then not even really worry about anything. But now I group things and write sections and have them kind of laid out in a manner that makes a lot of sense just visually and also for people coming in the file. So I try to be more organized, but usually it's just sections.
Love that. And do you do so with your developers in mind? Like, is that something that you consciously are thinking about the whole time of, if, you did mention, now you organize it based on these things, but do you organize that with, if a developer were to come in here, this is how they might like to see it?
So I don't know if I've done it directly because of like a developer coming in. I know it's helpful to come into like an organized file because you can actually like share it and then have things make a little bit of organizational sense, reading right from left or something, or left from right. Wow, yeah, backwards. Uh, but even when things are seemingly organized, there's still some form of struggle that happens for some reason.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just not understanding Figma very well or the open canvas, and so it's not really for developers. It's more so for myself. And if I have to have a meeting to explain uh, any designs, then I can walk through in a more organized fashion. Um, and so, yeah, it's just kind of it's valuable for that, but I wouldn't say it's specifically because of developers. I think that having something like Zeplin would be more helpful in that case.
All right, and there we go. Now we've got our clip. Thank you very much. No, just kidding. That was perfect. I love that. And then moving on, looking forward, because as we are natural people, we are forward thinkers. What does the future of design to dev look like in your opinion?
Um, yeah, so honestly, I think that I'm hoping at least it's much more collaborative. As I was saying before, I really like having the PMs and the devs in on the conversations ahead of time. And so I just feel like it's working together is almost underrated right now.
There you
um,
go.
and not only like time saving in the whole process, but the relationships and the connections that you can make and build with these team members of yours. It's actually kind of amazing how that works. And so I look forward to a way to work together, not necessarily in a main tool, like not trying to force people to use Figma because I design in it or anything like that, but something that can help bring that together. And hopefully this doesn't start to sound like a Zeppelin sales pitch.
If it fits, if the shoe fits, that's what I like to say. So hey,
Yes.
it sounds good. Sounds good. And I appreciate the honesty. That's fantastic. Thank you. Moving forward to thinking about the future, a topic that you cannot that you cannot go without is AI. So trigger warning to everybody out there. What do you think of AI in the field?
Oh, yeah, it's a hot topic, right?
Definitely.
I don't know. I feel like AI can be useful, for sure. I don't know if I personally believe that it would like take over design altogether. I feel like there's too much creativity involved in the mind, in the workings of a designer that AI just can't probably grasp. And if it could, it would probably be a ways off. Um, but I think it could be used more as like a companion to speed up the design process, help assist with idea generation, or maybe summarizing user research, those kind of things I think would be super helpful, and make that part of the process easier and faster.
I love that. Because I feel like too, most of the discourse right now about AI and design is how do we get AI to design, and then how do we get that design into code? So they're sort of like, how do we, industrial revolution process this like, and expedite everything. But I really like your perspective of it can actually help us, do the work that takes us a lot of time, so we can actually be the ones to do the creative work. I love that. I think that's
I'm
fantastic.
hoping.
A great way to think about it. And moving forward, I liked what you said too about the companion. Speaking about your true companion, a developer, how is communication with developers different than communication with other designers?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that can be said to like a designer that a developer wouldn't understand per se, but also vice versa. And so I think that there's a difference in the actual communication, but only in the words being used and not necessarily how much or how little it should happen. Um, I think that while probably right now I personally talk more to designers because of all the iterations and ideas that we go through, um, I would like to start communicating more with devs in the same manner, and just have these similar conversations, just maybe in the tech words that matter for their conversations.
Definitely. I love that. Speaking of, there's also been a trend recently in the industry of, and the community at large has been talking a lot about the design engineer. So, on that topic, do you think that designers should learn how to code? Do you think that that's something that would help that communication, or would you be looking at evolving in a different way?
Got it. Yeah, so I don't think, personally, I don't think designers should learn how to code and be the person that codes it. And that's not to say that you can't or you shouldn't, but I, I think that it just having the knowledge of the code and how that works and how you can design around that is super valuable. But requiring that to be something as part of the design process, I think, is not necessarily needed and might even potentially stifle creativity because people might then be restricted by their own knowledge of how to develop.
Definitely. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Because, I so much want to see designers and developers working so much better together. So I love where you're at. I love where your head's at. I love how you're thinking about that. That's fantastic. And moving forward too, I wanted to get a little bit of your perspective on this next question of what does the role of a product designer look like versus what people outside of the profession might think that it is, or maybe even what it looked like before. So, like what does that look like to you now?
Okay, yeah, so this is a funny one. I definitely talked to just a lot of people outside of my profession. I don't oddly have a lot of product design friends to talk product design. So most of the people I talk to don't know what I'm talking about. They tend to think of like artsy visual things when they hear design. They don't really care about the product part or the UX part. They just care about the design part.
Sure.
And so it gets very confusing when you try to tell them what you do. And there's a big disconnect on, oh, there's so much effort and thought put into it. You're not just making it look pretty, as some people say. There's a lot of planning and strategy and uh, maybe creative juices flowing that just, maybe in a good way drain you because you're using all your mental power to come up with amazing ideas. And it's so hard to vocalize that to someone when they ask, "What do you do?"
Sure. If you could, or this is actually maybe a fun little experiment here that we can do together. If you had to explain product design to a 5-year-old, how would you do it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I probably want to relate to a 5-year-old a little bit. I don't know if I remember what it is to be five, but it's very different now, I'm sure. Um, And so I'm assuming they have some sort of iPad or something available to them. So I might try to be like, you know that game you play on your iPad? I would be the one to design that when you press that button, this happens. Something very simple and maybe less like, I don't know, logical so that they can understand it.
I love that. I love too because initially, like you said, when I thought 5-year-old, I thought, okay, what was I like at 5? Didn't have a phone, didn't have an iPad, didn't have anything, and now we just went straight to how would you explain product design to an iPad baby, and what would that look like?
Right.
I love that.
Oh,
I love
that's
that. I think
funny.
that's awesome because there's so many different applications too, and that would be that's a great way to sort of tie it all together because you had mentioned before too, product design isn't just making things look pretty as one might imagine. It is there's a lot of work that goes into it. And speaking from your perspective too, what is your favorite part of product design? Is it truly the actual design work? Is it the research that goes into it beforehand? Like, what do you love the most about it?
Ooh, that is a good question because it's so hard because all of it is amazing. I very much as a problem solving person or lover of problem solving, um, I kind of like the whole part where you have maybe a vague idea of something and you have to create something out of that. It could be like a sentence that's like, we need to make this better. And then you have to come up with something based on that. And uh, the creativeness is amazing in that, but also I think important pieces in that are the research half. Um,
Hmm.
so probably talking to users and understanding where they're coming from and what they find difficult, because that then helps plug in the pieces of, oh, well then maybe we could do this or maybe we could do that, and then all the fun ideas come out.
I love it. I love it. So you're very much like focusing almost on putting the whole story together of like, A to Z, the research, the user interviews, all of it too, is when you really get to experience all that. That's awesome. That's a really great take. I appreciate that. Awesome. Cool, cool. Well, now we can move into a little segment that I like to call the Zeppelin hot seat, where I ask you some rapid fire questions, and we're looking for some rapid fire responses too.
Okay.
This first one might be a little bit of a thinker, so you can, of course, take a little bit of time to come up with your answer if you wish.
Okay.
First question for you. If you had to guess, how many rectangles have designers created?
That's a thinker. Ooh, I mean, I feel like 95% of the shapes in Figma are rectangles to start. So I'm not quick mathing this. Man, like over a billion. I'm going with over a billion.
Over a billion. Okay, I
Yes.
like that. If you had to go Price is Right style, and you had to pick a single number without going too high or too low, what would that number be in your case? How
One, 1,000,000,001.
classic Price is Right. I like the strategic angle there. That's a good one. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would that be?
Myself in one word. Ooh. Imaginative. Let's go with that one.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good one. And if you could describe your design process in one word, what would that be?
Um, Dynamic, I would go with.
Ooh, okay. Dynamic and imaginative. I think we're rewriting your LinkedIn bio right now as we speak.
Sounds great.
And then this last one, you get two extra words here. So if you could describe your design to dev process in 3 words, what would they be?
3 words. Okay. Well, in the spirit of what I just talked about, upfront, collaborative, and ongoing. Although that's
Ooh,
kind of 4 words, but yeah.
I think you could get away. We'll let the hyphen slide. Should we we're like on a game show? We're like, does it count? We're waiting for like the producers to be like, well, that is wonderful. And that now brings us to our very final section, our segment of the show. I appreciate all of your answers thus far. This next segment is called "So You Think You're a Designer," where we're really putting your skills to the test. So if you'd like, you're welcome to go ahead and share your screen now. For those of you who are just tuning in now for the first time, this is our segment of the show where we ask our guests to recreate the Zeppelin logo in Microsoft Paint. Because, of course, when you think of
Okay.
design, what is the original design tool if not Microsoft Paint? So we can go ahead and get that ready. So whenever you're ready, you're welcome to share your screen, and we can start the clock, and we can witness your dynamic and imaginative process at play.
Okay, let's see here. Oop, technical difficulty. Sharing screen. It says someone else is sharing the screen.
Oh yeah, it says that for me too. Um,
Oh, oh, do you have a ghost on the call?
maybe, I do not know what that is. Maybe here. Okay,
Oh,
can you try now?
there it is. There it
Oh,
is.
perfect. All right.
Okay. Share. All right. Got it.
Wonderful. And then do you want to go ahead and zoom in a little bit for us as well too, so we can
Yeah.
we can see this canvas in all of its glory.
Yes. Okay. Let's go. Nice and big. Is
Wonderful.
that big enough?
That is perfect. All right,
Okay.
and you have 2 minutes starting
Generals.
right now.
Okay. Well, clearly we gotta go orange.
Yes, and feel free to talk us through your process as well too, to do anything you'd like, or if you prefer to work silently too, that's a-okay, and we can throw some music
Oh,
over this and post.
oh, that's okay. This is. I mean, we gotta craft this like Bob Ross here. We're putting a little zing on this line for the tail. Oh, we've. I mean, it's got lines in it, right? So we go. Ooh, this is lovely. Here we go. Right there. We go swoop downward.
Ooh, interesting technique to use one continuous line. I wouldn't have thought to do it like that. I like
And
that
we've
approach.
got a middle one there. Ooh, this is looking good. Wait, how much time is left?
Quick time check, we have 1 minute remaining.
1 minute. Okay. Ooh. Well, when we got to get the main components going on here, then. So we've got. How does that? It goes like this. Okay. Okay. And then I'm. I think it's over here. Okay. Looking
Lovely.
pretty good.
30 seconds left. Do you want to add anything else? Any additional colors or
Ooh.
text? The world is your
Ooh.
oyster here.
Let's Let's see how cool this turns out. Oh no! I take that back. Undo. Where's the undo button? There it is. Okay. We're good. I'll that
There we go.
we'll
All
leave it at
right.
that.
That's perfect. I love it. I think that is honestly very good. It's a very good logo, and I think you should be very proud of that. You did it. How was your journey back into the original design tool itself, into Microsoft Paint?
Oh boy, this brings back memories. Maybe 5-year-old memories. I don't know, but um, this is very 95, Windows 95, and I'm loving it.
All right. If you had to do all the rest of your designs for the rest of this week in Paint, could you do it? And how would that be for you?
Oh boy. Could I do it? Probably. We've got rectangles.
There
See?
you go.
It's like 95% of the job. Um, and lines and colors. I think we could do it. It would just look a little dated.
Yeah, Microsoft Paint is just a design tool on hard mode. This is like expert mode design
Yes.
tool. If you can do it in Paint, you can do it anywhere. And I think that should be the main takeaway that we have here. But that brings us to the very end of our session, Stacey. So thank you again for being our very first guest here on Design to Dev. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if there's any last minute thoughts or anything you want to leave us with, please feel free to do so.
It's been lovely. Thank you for having me. It's fun. I know it kind of sounded a little bit like a pitch for Zeppelin there for a minute, but I believe in everything that I said, and I hope that anyone who's looking into product design really dives in and learns as much as they can in their first role, because that's what really got me going.
I love it. I love it. And who knows, after this one, maybe you will have a lot more product design friends to talk product design with.
Maybe.
Now you'll be a pillar of the community. So appreciate your time. Thank you very much again, Stacey, and thank you for everybody who joined us today. And have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye bye.